I hope you guys are ready for a good chuckle, because we got one for you today. But before we get into it, let's roll that intro. Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, friends, we talk about the Wizards of the Coast employees that decided to send a private paramilitary squad to a YouTuber's house in order to retrieve leaked trading cards. So this is an interesting one. You know, kind of shook it happened, but here we are. Now, first thing I will say is obviously the link to this will be down below. Second thing I want to say is hope you guys are doing well. Kind of been a slow time, and I've been sick, as you could probably tell from my voice. So, yeah, but yeah, with all that said, let's jump right on into it. So, first thing to note is that this happens for every trading card ever, all the time. If you go on YouTube and, you know, synchronize time with, you know, right when something got released, you'll usually find a YouTuber opening a set maybe a few days to a few weeks ahead of time. Now, sometimes it's totally legit. Folks like Ruxin for the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG and Leonhardt for the Pokemon TCG have historically always opened up the newest set of trading cards pretty early, and that's part of the respective trading card companies kind of advertising, because they realize that they have social media influencers who can put stuff out there, and you know, Leonhardt and Ruxin both have pretty large followings, so they put a video out. It helps create hype around the set. A couple weeks later, when the set actually drops, folks are actually pressed to go get their hands on some cards because they saw their favorite YouTuber open it up a little whiles ago. But this story is a little bit different and a little bit funny, but I thought I should highlight it given a completely separate instance related to the wonderful Fusion Strike and Evolving Skies images that you're seeing on screen right now. So in that particular case, Pokemon has kind of done nothing. My most recent video, I criticized Pokemon for not doing enough and not saying enough as it relates to the particular situation that happened, and really just kind of a lack of transparency and some generally vague language as a kind of way of smoke bombing all of us and letting this disappear. But this is the opposite extreme, where they quite literally roll up on the dude, and yeah, I couldn't believe it when I read it, but here we are. So the article starts when Magic the Gathering cards turned up on YouTube last week, on April 20th to be specific. Publishers Wizards of the Coast sent private investigators from Pinkerton to retrieve them. The resulting confrontation frightened one woman to tears, resulted in the confiscation of nearly 24 boxes of cards by private investigators. Wizards confirmed the incident to Polygon, and meanwhile the presenter denies anything illegal occurred. Now, in case you're curious, up until street date, these cards are technically not supposed to be released. So I don't know if invoking a paramilitary force like the Pinkerton agency was necessarily appropriate in order to retrieve the cards, but Magic is technically within their rights to go ahead and at least claim back property that otherwise would appear to have either been stolen or obtained under less than ideal norms. And again, it's kind of hard to repudiate a claim like that when you film yourself on YouTube with the cards on a live stream and release it before you could have possibly purchased these on a store shelf. So, more on this. At some point on April 20th, Old School MTG publishes a video. They're opening up a ton of these boxes for March of the Machine, The Aftermath. Just one of 22 boxes, it said, were purchased from an acquaintance. Remember that, because it's going to be a little interesting a little bit later on. Little has been revealed about the set so far, which is not expected to arrive in stores until May 12th. So now when a video shows up and this person is probably opening cards, showing the really good pulls, the video was quickly downloaded and used as fuel for reaction videos all over the internet. So later, on April 22nd, Old School MTG publishes another video explaining what had happened. So here's what the set looks like. Everything is gone. You can see here. I'll leave a link to his channel so that you can go check out the video if you're interested. So they go on to say the presenter of the video got up, recorded some videos, and right after he's done, dogs start barking because somebody was knocking at the door. He goes out, the wife's answering the door, and it's the Pinkertons. The name Pinkerton should ring a bell for American readers. So these guys are actually, like, this is insane, and if anybody wants a good laugh, go on Wikipedia. So the modern day Pinkertons are descended from the original Pinkerton Detective Agency, which was founded in Chicago more than 170 years ago. The company has played a role in major historical events, not of least of which was a stint of violent, strike-breaking private paramilitary force in the late 19th and early 20th century. So basically, rich robber barons would hire these guys to basically go into crowds and just start absolutely just destroying everything and being agents of chaos in order to kind of like break down the stability of strike actions that were being taken during like the American Industrial Revolution. And Pinkerton, surprise, surprise, is now a subsidiary of Paragon Systems. So Paragon Systems is yet another illustrious name. And, you know, these are large, scary companies that count security and loss prevention among its many services, but basically they just have like teams of very highly trained individuals that they could basically send out anywhere in the world if they needed to. All they need is a billionaire to bankroll it, and they'll go and they'll do some really just fabulous things. So it's these guys that actually showed up and took this guy's trading cards. So you can't see me because I'm not on video, but the smile on my face, I don't know what else to do. I'm astounded. So this article continues. Wizards confirmed to Polygon the Pinkertons were involved in the incident, so at least they're not doubting that. The presenter at Old School MTG described agents as big, heavy hitter guys who frightened his wife. The Pinkertons arrived with contact info for someone at Wizards of the Coast, and after speaking with them, the presenter said the presenter made the decision to pull their original videos down. So we don't know what was said, we don't know what was done, but we just know some big burly guys that definitely look like my plumber probably showed up to this guy's house and stared him down until he decided to do what he decided to do. So he was very apologetic about making my wife cry first thing in the morning by sending these heavy-duty lawmen to come collect stuff and talk about stolen products in jail time, the presenter said in the video. But they don't believe we stole anything, which we didn't. I don't know if they believe anybody really stole anything or if it was just an accident or whatever, but they did want the product back so they could try and figure out where the hole was so they could plug the hole. Wizards of the Coast can confirm that yes, this is part of their investigation, a representative told Polygon, and in the video, the YouTuber goes on to extrapolate that what they think happened in this situation. It's possible, they said, that someone somewhere in the distribution chain accidentally mistook March of the Machine from March of the Machine Aftermath. So basically, you have like March of the Machine, and then you have March of the Machine with some added messaging, and that's probably why it just so happened to show up and get past somebody who was able to sell it. Somebody screwed up, sent out the wrong cases to the gentleman after they bought the boxes off of, and because when he sold me the stuff, he said he was selling me March of the Machine collector's boxes, not Aftermath. He didn't really even know what Aftermath really was, I don't think. Convenient. Polygon has reached out to Old School MTG for more information. So the article then kind of really goes out to outline some really interesting things. So engaging private investigators, obviously that's something that obviously happens quite a bit. Occasionally you can involve like the FBI, right? Because unless it's like some large number of products, the FBI is probably not going to budge. Local law enforcement probably wouldn't budge either because they wouldn't have the necessary kind of insight as to what's going on. But if you're hiring a private security team in order to retrieve your products, obviously they're going to listen to you. They're going to be, they're going to act within the law, and they're going to be big and scary and look like cops. But realistically, they had no law enforcement authority. They just showed up to the guy's house and knocked and kind of informed him of what would happen next should he refuse to provide them the quote-unquote stolen or misappropriated property, right? And funny enough, back to our trading card hobby, but yeah, there was another similar incident back in 2021 involving Pokemon card products that were also retrieved using the help of a private investigator. So it's not like this is an uncommon thing to do, and Pokemon has done it before in the past. It's just really interesting because it happened again, and it happened right after the whole Pokemon Fusion Strike debacle, which I don't think is a coincidence. So the article goes on. The presenter in this instance said that the video, they said in the video that the person they spoke with from Wizards seemed to understand they were not at fault. In fact, they were eager to compensate the YouTuber for the purchase of cards, potentially in the form of a more appropriate replacement product. Anybody who has used my footage, they'll probably want you to take that down. I no longer have the product. The Pinkertons took everything and took it back to WotC. That includes empty boxes and wrappers. I don't even have a token to show for my efforts, he added with a laugh, before noting his channel had recently doubled in viewership. And then it looks like on April 25th, an additional statement was given to Polygon from Wizards of the Coast, and it reads, as part of the investigation into the unauthorized distribution and disclosure of embargoed product, we repeatedly attempted to contact an individual who had received unreleased cards. After the outreach was unsuccessful, an investigator visited him and asked that he reach out to us as part of our investigation and return the embargoed product and packaging. He agreed to do both. The unreleased product will be replaced by us with product he intended to purchase. We appreciate the individual's cooperation, and the investigation is ongoing. So really, really interesting turn of events here. Now, I think one of the things that makes me chuckle the most when I read this is the Pinkertons, because it's such a silly name for such a devious, chaotic entity in our lovely little world. The second thing that really kind of gets me here is it comes on the heels of the whole Fusion Strike fiasco. And you know, I don't know if sending like a SWAT team to someone's house is the appropriate response. Maybe in the other case with the Fusion Strike cards, it was more appropriate because, you know, we counted a lot of value on that table over here on this channel using some pretty simple math. But in this particular case, it seemed like Magic was just playing a like a very conservative type of approach to this. There was very clearly stolen product. And that's the thing. It's either inadvertent early release or it's stolen. This is a case where there's definitely no doubt about it, right? Like, I think 22 boxes of cards is it's a big number, right? But I don't think it's too much that it couldn't have been inadvertently released. And the other thing is, like, March of the Machine, the Aftermath. I could see how March of the Machine and March of the Machine, the Aftermath, could have been swapped out. There have been instances where folks have purchased Ghosts from the Past 2 and received Ghosts from the Past, and that's just because the boxes look barely identical, and unless you know the Yu-Gi-Oh monsters on those boxes, you know, your average Amazon employee probably wouldn't even know the difference. And that's kind of to some people's benefit. That is probably very likely what happened here, and I think that's probably why, you know, WotC released a statement where they basically said, like, yeah, we're going to give you the stuff you intended to purchase, March from Madness or whatever the name of the product is, as opposed to the one that is going to be released, the Aftermath. So I genuinely think that's probably what happened in this instance. I do think the Pinkertons were probably hired, or honestly just private investigators in general were engaged, because they probably wanted to play things a lot closer to the vest, given the kind of reputational turmoil, I'll say, that the hobby as well as the Pokemon company has come under recently because of what happened with those Fusion Strike cards. So, should Pokemon have done this too? I don't know if it would have helped anybody. I mean, I'm sure at this point they've hired private investigators, and that's part of that investigation you keep hearing about whenever Pokemon mentions this particular fiasco. But I think more importantly, Pokemon probably should have just made sure the house was good. You know what I mean? They should have just done what they had to do to make sure that the people they were working with, whether it be a third-party printing company or, you know, even their own employees, that those people are good, solid people who aren't going to steal and misappropriate that many trading cards. In this particular case, absolutely hilarious. I'm glad that everybody's safe and that it was a peaceful resolution. At the end of the day, it is unreleased product, right? So It's a very simple black and white rule. There's not really much to be debated here. It's unreleased product, and if the company wants it back, they technically have the rights and the means to do so. And in a court of law, I'm not a lawyer, and this isn't legal advice, but in a court of law, I would assume it would probably hold up to a certain extent as a, you know, as a legal argument. Like, how could you possibly have come into possession of something that should not have been sold in stores? You either stole it or you bought it from someone who stole it. And, you know, it's kind of hard to doubt that given the circumstances of everything. In this particular case, you probably bought it from someone who was dumb enough to accidentally send this out instead of the appropriate one, and as a result, everybody's happy, everybody's cool. I certainly don't think WotC would have wanted like a big beef because this person took him to court. So it sounds like, you know, the YouTuber did the right thing, I think, in the grand scheme of things. You certainly don't want to go up against some burly, you know, crazy person who's a Pinkerton. You certainly also don't want beef with a large trading card company that has very expensive lawyers, and at the end of the day, it's probably the best thing to return the products as a good show of faith. He obviously got a ton of content out of it, and he got his own Polygon article out of it, and at the end of the day, they're even going to compensate him and give him the stuff he was supposed to get. So hey, I guess everything works out in the end. Just goes to show you sometimes how those inadvertent early releases can be a really weird thing. If anybody's a Lego fan, I was in Walmart, of all places, up here in New York, and I was walking in one of the weekends in early April, and I actually saw this set of Lego, and I thought I recognized it. It looked really cool. It was on a brand new display, and what I didn't realize is that the MIDI scale Super Star Destroyer wasn't supposed to be released until May the 4th, so it's one of the sets that comes out May the 4th. I took a few because I said, yeah, let's see what happens, and I actually took them up to the front. I went to self-checkout. I went to go scan them, and funny enough, when I scanned them at Walmart, they flagged, and then someone came over to help me, and I was like, oh, I don't know what happened, and they basically told me they couldn't sell it to me because it's not registered in the system yet. So it just goes to show you, early inadvertent releases happen occasionally here and there. Companies have a variety of ways of catching them before they walk out the door. In my case, at the cash register. In some cases, a double check. And then in other cases, sometimes things get out a little bit early, and that's okay. Sometimes that has to be the case. And then in situations like that, you know, they can do some really interesting things to get their cards back in some very interesting ways. So with all that said, friends, thanks again for checking out another video. I appreciate your guys' time, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like, and if you aren't already, consider subscribing in order to become part of the Gengar Gang. Other than that, friends, thanks again for checking out another video, and we will talk soon. Peace.